Rikka is an ugly, disgusting, lonely alien who accidentally crashed his spaceship on the roof of a high school building. To maintain his identity a secret, she decided to pose as a human being and manipulated everyone's memory to make them believe that everything is normal. On one beautiful day at Kashihara Girls Academy, a girl named Chiyo with flower obsession is trying to deflower some flowers. While the three students enjoy the serene atmosphere of their school, Rikka arrives with an adorable anime wink. On the surface, they all seem to be typical high school girls, but each of them harbors a unique and hilarious secret that they don't want anybody to know. Rikka, the seemingly innocent Loli, was the alien colonel of the 1098th Brigade of the Galactic Revolutionary Alliance Army. Rikka's spaceship had crashed into the school, but she had a device to alter the memories of anyone who had witnessed the crash, allowing her to maintain her cute facade. Chiyo, on the other hand, was not just a flower freak, she was a ninja. She came to the school with a mission to assassinate the school principal, but she decided to stay and leave as an ordinary girl. She possessed ninja skills and flashy moves, but she often gets sweaty as fuck whenever she lies. Meanwhile, Sekine can hear people's thoughts, but with a twist, she can only do it with people of the same sexuality. She was aware of Rikka and Chiyo's secrets, but she decided to play the I know nothing card. Last but not the least is Tsubasa. He was actually the boy named Tsuyoshi, posing as his twin sister Tsubasa, who loves to ditch school. This explains why Sekine cannot read his thoughts. Tsubasa hopes to encounter some big plot from the certified MILFs, but finds himself surrounded by these three innocent girls instead. In class, Tsubasa asked Rikka if she could touch her toy, but Rikka said it was from her grandpa, and it was important for her nation, almost revealing her true identity. However, Rikka saved herself by explaining that it had been given to her on National Day. While Sekine reads her thoughts, Rikka starts yapping about National Day to cover herself up more. After that, Rikka suddenly felt a strong duty to defend the universe, prompting her to consider deactivating her memory control and revealing her true identity. Rikka then says goodbye in every goddamn language she knows, and just like that, this anime has reached its ending. Fortunately, Sekine revealed that Rikka was just messing around with her thoughts. Sitting in silence, Rikka finally gathered the courage to admit she had something to tell her friends, although she feared they might dislike her for it. Sekine was equally worried about Rikka's confession, thinking it could be disastrous. Just as Rikka was about to speak, a ninja shuriken passed, but Chiyo effortlessly stopped it with her two fingers, just like a real gangster holding a cigarette. After excusing herself, Chiyo swiftly eliminated the ninja threat, getting her regular tomato sauce facial skin care. She then went to the restroom to clean up but met the other girls there and invented a story about her moon periods kind of shit, which everyone accepted as they were all trying to divert attention from their own secrets. Back at the table, Rikka was on the verge of a painful flatulence crisis, and she struggled to maintain her cute image while battling the urge to let one big nasty fart release. Tsubasa noticed Rikka's distress, but she managed to play it cool while silently suffering. Sekine observed that Rikka's ribbon seemed to be producing some sticky liquid, prompting Rikka to panic, thinking her tentacles, disguised as ribbons, had been exposed. Chiyo jumped in to save Rikka from further embarrassment by diverting the conversation to the cookies she had just made. Tsubasa seized the opportunity to ask Chiyo about her hobbies, to which Chiyo responded with a litany of fabricated, cute hobbies, concealing her true ninja skills. Rikka is so close to releasing a massive fart, and Sekine notices Rikka's predicament. That said, she advised her to find a secluded room to let out her potentially toxic alien gas. Rikka could no longer contain the pressure and dashed outside, with Sekine in hot pursuit to prevent a catastrophic gas release. As Rikka opened the door to release her pent-up gas using her tentacles, a ninja suddenly appeared and sniffed the gas, which proved to be fatal. The class bell rang, and Sekine, who was the last to leave the room, spotted Rikka's toy, which she used to brainwash others. Sekine accidentally spilled juice on it, and she activated the toy, causing it to speak in human language about an approaching enemy. Rikka rushed back into the classroom to retrieve the toy, only to find it malfunctioning and exposing her secret. Realizing her cover was blown, she activated her James Bond mode, brandishing what appeared to be a water gun. Then, she ordered her friends to stand still and count to 10 with their hands up. Tsubasa and Chiyo initially underestimated the seriousness of the situation, but Sekine, who had read Rikka's thoughts, understood the gravity and instructed them to comply. The four of them stood with their hands raised while Seina gathered the courage to ask Rikka a burning question. After a dramatic pause, she inquired whether Rikka's poop also came out of her tentacles. Rikka, thinking Seina had already done something embarrassing, shot her with the water gun, turning her into a blob as a form of punishment. However, Seina has only contemplated the question and none of it actually ever happened yet. Rikka pointed her water gun at her friends, initiating an Earth quiz to determine the spy among them, and she asked Tsubasa astronomy questions, expecting her to fail. However, Tsubasa impressively answered them all correctly. Next, it was Seina's turn, and she also passed the quiz, so Rikka proceeded to Chiyo, but she was hesitant to ask her the hardest question. Nonetheless, Rikka gathered her courage and asked her the impossible question. The hardest question known to humanity: what was the shape of the Earth? While it is so obvious, Chiyo answered triangle, making her the dumbest girl on the entire planet. Rikka had no choice but to shoot Chiyo. However, her shot missed, hitting Tsubasa and Seina instead. Chiyo swiftly moved behind Rikka to knock her down. Later on, Rikka wakes up, and Seina hands her back the toy, revealing that the warning was just a false alarm. Rikka apologized sincerely and offered her friends badges as a gesture of reconciliation. Tsubasa, on the other hand, remained angry, but Chiyo and Seina convinced him to let it go. At night, Rikka found herself on the school roof, reflecting on the day's events. Chiyo was perched on a tree while Tsubasa and Seina were lost in thought, contemplating the lies they had told. The next day, Tsubasa, whose real name was Tsuyoshi, walked under the scorching sun, regretting the decisions that had led him to wear the sailor uniform. He tried his best to look as unconvincing as possible in his cross-dress, attempting to maintain some act of dignity. However, when Tsubasa arrived home, his sister was ready to embarrass him. She had prepared an incredibly cute pink undergarment for him to wear along with his midsummer school uniform. Tsubasa was down badly, and his sister even took a picture of him attempting to put on the pink undergarments. Tsubasa accepted his fate and proceeded to school, where he was greeted by the sight of all the other girls wearing the same midsummer outfit. Chiyo, in particular, was absolutely thrilled with the outfit she had created, going to extreme lengths to craft matching accessories. She admitted to not having slept in 3 days, all for the sake of her outfit. Chiyo encouraged everyone to try on the accessories, and Rikka, in her usual fashion, attempted to put on cute hair flowers. She tied her tentacles with rubber bands so tightly that they were practically choking. Seina noticed Rikka's struggles, but as expected, she maintained her composure. Chiyo then turned her attention to Tsubasa, asking him to try on the accessories, but he gave her the cold shoulder. Seina is determined to read Tsubasa's thoughts, but she is obviously blocked once again by the gender barrier. Meanwhile, Rikka continued to suffer silently as her tentacles were being strangled. Tsubasa, on the other hand, felt bad for turning them down. That said, he reluctantly agreed to their plan, and he was subjected to Chiyo's expertise in makeup and accessorizing, making Tsubasa's inner self suffer in agony. At Tsubasa's home, he returned fully dressed as a traditional schoolgirl, and his sister couldn't resist capturing the moment with her phone. That noon, all four friends found themselves downtown, where they encountered a guardian spirit fortune teller. None of them were particularly enthusiastic about fortune telling, but the fortune teller enticed Tsubasa with a quick marriage prediction. The fortune teller looks into her crystal ball and sees that Tsubasa would marry a woman, leading her to believe that Tsubasa is a girl who likes girls. She reassured her that she would keep this a secret and that she should wait till the government legalized it. This bizarre prediction left Tsubasa bewildered. Next, it was Chiyo's turn, and the fortune teller saw multiple famous and wealthy guardian spirits surrounding Chiyo when she asked about it. Chiyo was excited by this news, relieved that she wasn't cursed in any way. Little did she know, those were the spirits that her family had eliminated in the past. Finally, it was Rikka's turn, and the fortune teller peered into her crystal ball and envisioned a massive space fish man army engaged in combat against Rikka. This bizarre vision is too much for the fortune teller to handle, so she collapses. Back at school, the midsummer outfit season had come to an end, and preparations for the school festival were in full swing. The girls' group decided to run a production cafe, and, as usual, Chiyo took charge, declaring herself the dress designer. She provided Rikka and Seina with cute waitress uniforms, while Tsubasa and himself got dashing butler outfits. Rikka requested Chiyo for a different uniform, and it was no surprise that it was a military uniform. However, Chiyo stops and tells her that she will create a maid uniform for her. Chiyo was seated in the classroom sewing a maid uniform for Rikka when Seina approached her and suggested that she should also wear the maid uniform. She eventually persuaded Chiyo to try it on, and Chiyo asked Sekine how she looked. Sekine, struggling to find the right words, barely restrained herself from saying that Chiyo looked like someone who works in the porn industry. Tsubasa then entered the room and immediately thought of the same thing about Chiyo. They were both stuck in an awkward situation, not knowing how to break the news to Chiyo, who may soon find herself overwhelmed with unexpected appointments. Taking it upon himself to address the issue, Tsubasa embarked on a long speech about hooking up as a respected profession. However, just as he was delivering this speech, Rikka chimed in, complimenting Chiyo's appearance and comparing it to a magazine for grown-up men that she found on the streets. In the class, Sekine informed the entire class that their best idea for the cafe theme was a ninja mansion. Much to Chiyo's distress, they were in the midst of preparations for the ninja mansion theme, and Tsubasa proudly declared his love for ninjas, sharing that he had admired them since childhood. Chiyo, on the other hand, is struggling to suppress her ninja pride. Chiyo then demonstrated her ninja shuriken throwing skills, accurately hitting the target, which amazed everyone. Rikka noticed Chiyo's skills, and she acknowledged how good she was at doing it. Chiyo, feeling the pressure, decided she needed to conceal her ninja pride and attempt to act like a normal girl again. However, her ninja pride resurfaced when Tsubasa mentioned doing 1,000 push-ups to improve his skills.
Stop it. Get some help.
Tsubasa embarked on Chiyo's push-up challenge, with her acting as his trainer. She pushed Tsubasa to the brink of exhaustion, eventually vomiting and collapsing into his own mess. Chiyo then ordered Rikka to sit on Tsubasa's back to add more weight, but even that wasn't enough, she switched Rikka for Sekine. The next day, Sekine informed the class that Tsubasa would be absent due to muscle cramps. Chiyo, blaming herself for Tsubasa's condition, volunteered to take his place in the cafe. The school festival arrived, and Mr. Bryan, the English teacher, encountered Rikka, who was holding a sign for the Ninja Mansion Cafe. Mr. Bryan entered the cafe and was genuinely impressed by the Ninja Mansion setting. Chiyo, dressed as a full ninja, greeted him with her ninja techniques, and his excitement reached a fever pitch. Mr. Bryan's enthusiastic reaction left Chiyo feeling satisfied with their cafe's theme. As the day went on, Chiyo continued to blame herself for Tsubasa's absence, and Sekine suggested that she give him a gift on her way back home. At Tsubasa's home, Chiyo knelt and apologized to Tsubasa, offering him her ninja weapons as a token of her apology. Tsubasa appreciated the gesture, despite the bloodstains on the stars, mistaking them for a well-done paint job. However, when Tsubasa's sister saw the authentic ninja tool, she sold them at a very high price, making Tsubasa get extremely mad. The next day, the squad returned from the park with gurgling stomachs, leading them to a unanimous decision to savor some delicious takoyaki. They flocked to the takoyaki shop, and the owner generously handed them each an extra piece, claiming it was a special treat from him. However, he forgot to give one to Sekine, leaving her devastated. Sitting on a nearby bench, they collectively reflected on the nightmarish scenario that had just happened. In an attempt to break the awkwardness, Sekine made a bizarre gesture by making a takoyaki shape from her cheek. To ease Sekine's heartbreak and embarrassment, they reassured her that the taste of the takoyaki was nothing extraordinary, making the absence of the extra piece insignificant. Yet, the awkwardness still lingers. Their discomfort escalated when 3 schoolboys approached, handing Chiyo, Rikka, and even Tsubasa their contact information. But once again, Sekine was ignored. Chiyo gets pissed off by the inconsiderate actions of the jerks, so she estimated that it would take her a mere 3 minutes to eliminate those jerks. However, Sekine finds out Chiyo's intentions and hastily intervenes. Sekine proceeded to deliver an impassioned speech about the preciousness of life, leading Chiyo to reconsider her killing intention. Tsubasa offered words of encouragement, assuring Sekine that she would become popular in the future because she possessed the biggest plots in the class. Rikka and Chiyo remained confused by Tsubasa's compliment as he unabashedly revealed his fondness for large plots, making everyone uncomfortable. Suddenly, Rikka transported them all back to the beginning of the day when they were still hungry and planning to eat takoyaki. Sekine recognized Rikka's true motive, which was to spare her from the embarrassment of being excluded. At the takoyaki stand, Rikka instructed Sekine to step aside momentarily. Then Rikka, clutching her toy, transformed everyone into giant pigs so that Sekine would be the most beautiful girl on the planet. Sekine, catching a glimpse of Rikka's thoughts, briefly thought about the advantages of being surrounded by pigs, but quickly realized the need to intervene. However, before she could react, Rikka unleashed her transformation, turning everyone, including Tsubasa and Chiyo, into pigs. To their astonishment, the other people who are now pigs showed no interest in Sekine and were smitten with the pig version of Chiyo. Rikka proceeded to use her toy repeatedly to transform everyone into various creatures, but the outcome remained unchanged because Chiyo remained the center of attention. After trying several times, Rikka erases everyone's memory, and they find themselves back at the Takoyaki stand. Seina, realizing that she must come to terms with the situation, delivered a heartfelt speech about the importance of inner beauty. Unexpectedly, Truck-kun decided to ice-sky Seina, but it realized how ugly and disgusting her face was, so it gave her the biggest water splash of her life instead of wasting its time.
Emotional damage!
She removed her glasses, and it became evident that her eyes were very beautiful, even causing a nearby clock to fall to the ground in awe. Rikka suggested that they postpone their takoyaki feast for another day, a notion to which everyone agreed. Rikka, staying behind, devised a plan to address the takoyaki discrimination issue using a flying octopus, typical Rikka behavior driven by her peculiar alien hormones. The following day at school, the topic of discussion revolves around the number of holes Tsubasa has. I mean the number of ear piercings he has. Anyways, Tsubasa shared the story of how he first encountered Seina and how she helped him let it slide from the teachers, but with a fee. Seina had also befriended Chiyo a year prior, initially approaching her as a means to cover her lunch expenses but eventually winning her friendship by gifting her a Masukuma toy. This left a huge impact on Chiyo, and she became obsessed with Masukuma, ultimately leaving behind her ninja aspirations. They reminisce about the day they met Rikka, but Tsubasa and Chiyo recall different versions of the story, leaving Seina aware that Rikka only planted those memories in their brains. Meanwhile, Seina is also uncertain about which memories were real and which were fabricated. Nonetheless, she still considered Rikka a remarkable leader due to her strong influence. After a while, they are in the drama club, where Rikka finds herself holding a cracker, but has no idea what it is. Inadvertently, she launched the cracker, hitting Chiyo, who promptly burst into tears. Chiyo, in her charismatic innocence, believed it to be a birthday surprise, and the others decided to play along, offering her birthday wishes that they had never planned. Rikka, with a sly grin, presented an old, used eraser to Chiyo as a gift, and to no one's amazement, Chiyo absolutely adored it. Seina, however, quickly detected Rikka's mind manipulation, realizing the influence of her brainwashing toy. Meanwhile, Tsubasa contemplates if he will give Chiyo the gift he brought for the girl that she will like in the future, but he ends up giving it anyway. Chiyo presented it to her, and she was thrilled with the gift. Tsubasa made the fateful mistake of asking her what else she wanted. Predictably, Chiyo's request was to braid Tsubasa's hair once again. Then, Tsubasa found herself sporting cute girly braids, much to Chiyo's delight. Chiyo gave Seina "You are the next one" glare, so she decided to use her Mistress Time ability that let her control her ability, but with a twist. Whenever she uses it, she gets fat. Seina used these psychic powers to manipulate the bag and created a happy birthday greeting in midair just for Chiyo. But as a side effect, it instantly made her fat. Chiyo, touched by all the gifts and gestures, delivered a heartfelt thank you speech. She then asked Seina to create a long sentence about their friendship in the sky, leaving Seina looking like a bloated puffer fish. The following day, Rikka's UFO, which had been firmly lodged in the school bell, radiated a brilliant glow. Seeing that, Seina can't help but wonder why Chiyo and Tsubasa did not find it strange to have a UFO hanging there on the top of the school like that. However, staying true to her quirky self, Rikka suggested they should sing a rather weird anthem in honor of the UFO's radiant display. Little did they know, Rikka interpreted the UFO's shimmering glow as a signal from her alien friends, who she believed were engaged in a space battle. She felt her enthusiastic singing was a source of moral support for them all the way from Earth. Later in class, Chiyo opened her lunchbox, revealing the homemade cookies she had prepared. They were an instant hit with everyone. Loving the taste, Rikka playfully suggested she wanted to marry Chiyo for her culinary skills. The conversation then shifted to Tsubasa, who found himself in the spotlight, contemplating who he would want to marry. Tsubasa pondered his response, initially thinking of picking Chiyo due to her beauty and culinary talents. However, he hesitated after recalling some of Chiyo's questionable actions. He then briefly considered Seina but dismissed the idea, remembering her penchant for tracksuits. Then, he considered little Rikka, though it was evident that it was a strange choice given her young age. Seina, sensing Tsubasa's inner battle, inquired again. To everyone's surprise, Tsubasa decided to list all his own attributes and qualities as those of his ideal spouse. Seina, observing this, couldn't help but label Tsubasa as a narcissist. Then, the next class began, and Tsubasa showed Seina an image of an idol that bore a striking resemblance to Chiyo. As they look at the picture, Seina curiously asks why a swimsuit idol photo is on Tsubasa's phone. Rikka also joined them. She started asking weird but innocent questions about the photos, such as why guys look at them. Tsubasa did his best to explain, offering her a crash course on the topic of baby making. However, the cute and innocent alien still believes that babies are delivered by storks from the sky. Chiyo intervenes, saving Tsubasa from explaining further. He then showed Chiyo the swimsuit idol picture, but Chiyo suddenly realized that it was not someone who looked like her because her body was all scarred up. Chiyo, overwhelmed by the sight of these revealing images, burst into tears. However, Seina interprets her tears, thinking they're due to a different kind of excitement. Chiyo, carried away by her emotions, momentarily considered disrobing, but Rikka stepped in, saving Tsubasa from further embarrassment. After this, both Chiyo and Tsubasa were now emotional, feeling fed up with their school life. Rikka and Seina were determined to bring them back together, so they brought Chiyo and Tsubasa face to face, and they offered apologies to each other with a handshake. However, Tsubasa experienced an awkward physical reaction upon touching Chiyo's hand, prompting him to retreat to the bathroom hastily. Little did they know, Rikka had a secret device implanted on Chiyo's neck that turned anyone she touched into a girl. Tsubasa felt devastated when he completely turned into a girl. Due to that reason, Seina can now read his thoughts. Rikka mentioned a history homework assignment related to names, which prompted Tsubasa to go on an emotional rant. He cried about how he might not become the man his grandpa wanted him to be. As a ray of hope, Chiyo invited Tsubasa to a small pool gathering with a female-only entry. Tsubasa hesitated, but after realizing that he had become a girl, he decided to go along instead. In the pool locker room, they wrote down their secrets on paper strips. As they prepared to change into their swimsuits, Tsubasa scampered away for some privacy. Meanwhile, Rikka, without care for modesty, uses her quick-changing outfit power right in front of them. Chiyo, however, opted to wear a full dress for swimming to hide her battle scars. After wearing their swimsuits, Rikka took Tsubasa's hand and leaped into the pool while Chiyo enjoyed a leisurely moment outside, sipping a beverage with Seina. Tsubasa immersed himself in a sea of beautiful ladies wearing various plot armor, providing him with an exciting atmosphere.
Yeah, boy.
One of the girls approached him, seeking help in detangling her necklace from her back. Shyly and awkwardly, Tsubasa assisted her. Exiting the pool, Tsubasa began to act more feminine in front of his friends. They then decided to hang up their secret paper strips and write down a secret wish on each. Tsubasa wished to regain his previous anatomy, while Chiyo hoped her scars would vanish. On the other hand, Seina's wish was to lose some excess fats that made her appear bloated. Everyone hung their wishes on a tree and gazed at a shooting star. Rikka knows that her wish won't come true, so she uses her toy instead to grant everyone's wishes. Tsubasa regained his anatomy back, Chiyo's scars vanished, and Seina shed some weight. After that, Seina also removed the gender-changing device from Chiyo's neck. Moments later, at the Masakuma movie theater, a salesgirl was selling a limited edition Masakuma keychain, which Chiyo desperately wanted. However, to buy it, they have to show a polka dot item in return. Chiyo is ready to show her polka dot plot armor, but Rikka steps in to save the day. She transformed her tentacles into a polka dot texture, securing the strap for Chiyo. In doing so, Rikka unwittingly changed her own tongue pattern to a polka dot pattern. Amid their celebration, 3 ninja shurikens appeared out of nowhere, targeting Chiyo's strap and causing it to fall into the sewage. Chiyo entered a frenzied state, determined to track down the culprit. Meanwhile, back at the shop, Seina, Tsubasa, and Rikka brainstormed ways to retrieve Chiyo's Masakuma strap. Tsubasa considers showing his polka dot underwear, but considers it too awkward to flaunt his package. They reunited with Chiyo, and Tsubasa presented her with the limited edition Masakuma keychain by showing the salesgirl his handkerchief, which happens to be a polka dot too. Then, they returned to their homes happy. Meanwhile, 2 alien spaceships communicate with each other somewhere in space. It's time to dive into life with Chiyo. Shockingly, she lives in a bunker. She wakes up early with a ninja's morning routine mixed with your typical teen schoolgirl rituals. In school, it was time for the final exam, and Rikka was using her tentacles to cheat. On the other hand, Seina was not using her abilities to cheat because of her loyalty to her school. Fast forward a few days, and the nerdy exam score discussion was underway. Thanks to Rikka's cheating adventures, she managed to score 51 out of 100. However, the discussion took an unexpected turn when a classmate brought in drafts of a collection of the most beautiful girls in class. To no one's surprise, most students had written down Chiyo's name. After all, she was the babe of everyone, and her friends couldn't agree more. Chiyo got shy and made up an excuse about needing groceries. Along the way, she was beaming with happiness due to these comments. Chiyo thought her beauty was the result of her bizarre training experiences, like eating pigs, wallowing in mud, and receiving unwanted avian facials.
Are you crazy?
However, as she was about to return to the classroom, she overheard Seina and Tsubasa talking. Her friends discuss how Chiyo seemed to be getting a bit conceited and full of herself, though, in reality, she wasn't that great at all. Not to mention, even Rikka agrees with the two. Chiyo misinterpreted the conversation, thinking they were talking about her beauty. So, the next day, Chiyo decided to change her hairstyle, but her friends told her they liked it the way it was before. Tsubasa, on the other hand, suggested to cut it even shorter. Chiyo headed to the school bathroom and blamed herself for what happened. That said, she attempted to cut the hair to amend her mistakes. Luckily, Rikka arrived just in time, and she quickly snatched the scissors from her hand. Realizing what is happening, Rikka drags her back to the classroom. After an intense pause, Rikka yelled at Tsubasa and Seina, claiming they were terrible for treating Chiyo that way. Rikka further explains that even though Chiyo got terrible grades, she doesn't deserve to be treated that way. Tsubasa and Seina quickly apologized, which made Chiyo feel even worse. It turns out that when Chiyo overheard them, they were discussing her English test scores. They worry about her performance in that subject, which might not allow him to pass through the next level of her education progress. They apologized for talking behind her back, and they assured her that they only wanted her to join them in high school. This whole attitude issue with Chiyo is the doing of their English teacher, who often gives her false hopes. After that, Chiyo felt better, so she told them not to worry and proceeded to recite the entire English textbook, including its prefaces. Tsubasa and Seina were in shock, but Rikka, being Rikka, gave her a huge round of applause. Summer holidays were approaching, and they decided to go to the beach. However, Tsubasa, with his male plot, was worried about wearing a bikini. At this moment, comment down who among these four you simp the most and briefly tell us why. At the beach, Tsubasa went to get drinks while the others set up their sunbathing spot. They all wore swimsuits that Chiyo made for them, and Seina suggested they apply sunscreen afterward. For the first time, Rikka learns sunscreen, so she decides to drop something from her spaceship. It turns out that this is a space octopus that ends up pouring its ton of white sticky liquid on Seina. Meanwhile, Chiyo sends a guy flying after he grabs her hand without her consent. After that, they found themselves kneeling in front of the boys, begging them not to sue Chiyo. Seina offered 230 yen coins as compensation, but Chiyo attempted to resolve the matter by holding a ninja dagger to her throat. Just then, their savior, Tsubasa, arrived and started talking like Indiana Jones. Seina whispered to Tsubasa to get down on his knees and start crying like the others. Tsubasa, seeing everyone's Oscar-worthy performance, decided to join the show. Somehow, the incident was resolved, and they enjoyed picnic snacks bought by Rikka. Tsubasa asked Rikka how much the snacks cost, and Rikka revealed some hot cash. Everyone was shocked by the amount of money Rikka had. On a side note, Seina and Tsubasa are suspicious of Rikka's source of money. Upon hearing them ask if talking about his money is fake, Rikka gives a petty explanation of inflation that no one cares about. Seina knows Rikka is in deep water, so she butts in and lies that the money is from her hefty allowance. She even took the money that she claimed to be fake and kept it for herself. Feeling bad for Rikka spending her money, Chiyo excused herself and headed towards the bathroom. Tsubasa followed her to check on her but got stopped by a lady praising him for standing up to those guys earlier. When the lady calls Tsubasa a pretty boy, he gets extremely flattered. Then, he sat with the melancholic Chiyo and told her that he was genuinely happy to be at the beach with her, which brightened her mood. After that, they all decided to build something out of sand. As they chatted, Rikka had already constructed a sand spaceship similar to the one at school. They enjoyed beach life, swimming, rafting, and just chilling in the sea. As the day turned into night, they prepared to head back home. That same girl who praised Tsubasa earlier approached him again. She apologized for calling him a pretty boy and corrected herself by saying Tsubasa was a pretty girl due to his androgynous beauty, which him feel devastated. The news reported that someone was using counterfeit notes at the beach with an unknown man involved. Seina took the notes from her bag and was shocked to see a picture of Rikka's great leader printed on the bill. The next day at school, Chiyo becomes ecstatic because of Seina's invitation to her home. Seina didn't really want to invite people for a sleepover, but the circumstances left her with no other choice. It turns out that moments earlier, a strong typhoon landed in their region, and Chiyo mentioned her worries that she hadn't been sleeping properly for 2 days and couldn't pick vegetables from outside due to the rain. Tsubasa heard this and envisioned Chiyo living in a beautiful treehouse with a family vegetable garden. He thought that Chiyo must be loaded, but in reality, Chiyo camped out in a tree and lived by consuming wild plants. Chiyo pondered where she'd stay in that rain, and Sekine seemed to tune into her thoughts. Being the kind-hearted friend she was, Sekine invited Chiyo to her home in a dramatic slow-motion speech. Rikka also chimed in, asking if she could join. And before anyone knew it, Tsubasa was in too. Sekine reluctantly agreed to all of it, and Chiyo excitedly mentioned that she could bring something to eat, leading her to suggest one of her bucket lists, which is to experience Takopa. They all seem enthusiastic, except for Rikka, who is completely clueless about what Takopa is. She imagined Takopa as some sort of soup made from alien creatures, with Mr. Octopus as the main ingredient. Sekine, sensing trouble in Rikka's mind, decided to clarify that it was just a takoyaki party. After facing the heavy rain just to buy ingredients for takoyaki, they finally reached Sekine's house. Chiyo brought a gift for Sekine's parents, but Sekine revealed that she lived alone because of her parents' work. However, it is revealed that her parents have been kidnapped, and she has no idea if they are still alive. Inside the house, they walked down a not-so-clean hallway. Suddenly, a mouse scurried past Tsubasa, startling him greatly. Sekine claimed it was her pet, and they sat down for drinks. Chiyo expresses her appreciation for Sekine's house, like the sturdy walls and roof. Tsubasa also showed off his takoyaki cooking skills. Rikka, seeing the perfectly prepared takoyaki, commented that Tsubasa's balls looked great. They all tried Tsubasa's takoyaki balls, and Chiyo loved the sour taste of those balls. However, things took a weird turn as they all felt strange while eating their takoyaki balls, revealing that they added bizarre ingredients that no normal people would put on a takoyaki. Unfortunately, Tsubasa got the worst of it. They asked what he put in his takoyaki, and he revealed it was just cheese and other sea stuff, which the girls found surprisingly girlish. Tea time follows, and they all enjoy the nicely rounded bitterness of the tea, except for Rikka, who finds it sweet due to her alien taste buds. After tea, Rikka and Tsubasa decided to leave. Tsubasa explains that he cannot sleep without his favorite pillow, while Rikka has to protect her home. Chiyo stayed behind, and Sekine joined her for a bath-rubbing plot development. Even during their bath, they tried to keep their secrets hidden. Afterward, Chiyo helped Sekine to do her hair. This entire experience was like a dream come true for Chiyo, staying over with her friends. Sekine, reading Chiyo's mind, decided to do more of her bucket list. Chiyo shared a heartwarming moment, expressing that Sekine was her favorite because she was the first one to invite her, which led them to a cuddling moment. When morning arrived, Sekine was amazed to see that Chiyo had already fixed her bed and she had already prepared their breakfast. However, Sekine noticed that there was meat in the breakfast, which was strange since her house didn't have any meat. There was a brief moment of silence in her brain, and then she decided not to read Chiyo's thoughts for a better outcome. As they prepare to leave for school, Chiyo reveals that she doesn't know about the one-third thing because he's not good at English. Before leaving, it is revealed that the meat came from the rat that lives in her house. In the classroom, Sekine invited everyone to her home again, and Chiyo left for a moment. A fly landed on her glasses, prompting her to take them off. Suddenly, a ninja shuriken headshot Rikka, and she fell, splattering pink alien fluids everywhere. This was the result of Sekine using her powers without her glasses. Seeing this apparent assassination attempt, Chiyo blamed herself and wished that she could live a normal life. But Tsubasa, not fully grasping the situation, thought it was just a prank and believed that it was some surprise for Chiyo. As the situation gets intense, Rikka's hairband moves, and Tsubasa thinks it is a party prop. Meanwhile, Sekine contemplated running away, fearing that if the organization learned about her power causing death, she'd be in big trouble. Meanwhile, Rikka started murmuring about the regeneration on Earth, and Sekine only saw her moving her mouth without any sound. Tsubasa tried to stop Chiyo from confessing everything to the police and destroying the entire ninja village by telling her that it was all just a prank. Hearing this, Rikka was confused, but Sekine seized the opportunity to save herself by explaining why it was all a prank. She spouted ridiculous reasons, like it being her great-grandmother's Memorial Day, stretching the truth to its limits. Chiyo cries and hugs Rikka. On the other hand, Rikka thought that it was just how humans reacted to their relative's death commemoration. Sekine was saved from the clutches of the organization once again, all thanks to her quick thinking and absurd explanations. The next day, Tsubasa woke up in an unfamiliar place, and to his surprise, he saw everyone lying on the floor in a strange room. As they slowly came to their senses, they were all baffled and had no idea where they were. Tsubasa vaguely recalled that they were all singing at a karaoke box just moments ago. Seina also remembered the karaoke party, particularly the bizarre sight of Rikka singing with her tentacles, which left quite an impression. Seina recollected that as soon as they heard Rikka's unique performance, they all blacked out and lost consciousness. As expected, Tsubasa is always ready to jump to conclusions, believing they'd been drugged and kidnapped, probably for some sinister organization that specializes in human trafficking. He then decided to play the role of the hero, assuming they wouldn't harm a boy. Chiyo, on the other hand, blamed herself, thinking her ninja background led to their capture, and considered taking matters into her own hands to give them a quicker, less painful death. Just before things could get any worse, Rikka activates her boxing champ skills and punches Chiyo, knocking her down and declaring that every life is precious. Suddenly, a man in a lab gown teleported into the room while he was mysteriously levitating in midair. Much to everyone's shock, he seemed to know Seina. He reprimanded Seina for removing her glasses, a move that led them all into that situation. Seina reluctantly admitted that she was okay with the consequence of returning to the lab. Seina insisted on telling the truth to her friends, but the lab guy had already wiped out their memories with her, and he already sent them back home. Unlike Tsubasa and Chiyo, Rikka can still remember Seina, and she wonders why the two can't seem to remember her. The following day at school, Tsubasa and Chiyo felt something was off but couldn't figure out what it was. Rikka then assumes that what is happening to them is normal among humans. That said, Rikka asks Tsubasa and Chiyo if it's normal for someone to be kidnapped for their powers. Tsubasa thinks that Rikka is referring to her friend Seina, who must have been recruited as a lead singer by the K-pop industry after her memorable karaoke performance. Chiyo echoes this sentiment, thinking it's great that Seina has found success in singing. Meanwhile, Seina finds herself in a lab bed, where the lab guy appears and hands her a video game to play before vanishing once more. Seina immerses herself in the game, playing day and night. Back in the regular world, her friends go about their school days as if nothing extraordinary has happened. On the other hand, Rikka still has her doubts about Seina's disappearance. Meanwhile, Seina reflects on her new life and how it's better for her to be completely gone, especially after knowing what others want and think about her. As Seina continues to motivate herself, Rikka suddenly appears at her window, holding a signed board. She notices Seina crying and asks her about it. Unable to hold back her emotions, Seina breaks down further, and she asks about the signed board. Rikka explains that it's signed by Tsubasa, Chiyo, and herself as an encouragement for Seina to pursue a new path. Gathering her composure, Seina informs Rikka that she must leave now because visitors are not allowed in her current location, and she needs to prepare for her upcoming physical examination. Just then, a ringtone of yelling battalion is heard, and Rikka answers her phone. It's Tsubasa on the phone asking if Rikka has already given the signed board to Seina, and Rikka explains that she was about to, but she found Seina crying and undressing. Misinterpreting the situation, Tsubasa, being a boy, jumps to a bizarre conclusion and thinks Seina is auditioning for some adult-related platform. Tsubasa went on to give an impassioned speech to Rikka, trying to convince her to stop Seina. Rikka, eager to rescue her friend, tried to kidnap Seina, but the lab guy teleported in once again. Apparently, he discovered that Rikka was an alien and saw an opportunity to obtain the power he so desperately sought. It turned out that he was just referring to stable income. He then revealed that due to his lack of financial stability, his countless marriage proposals were rejected. Observing the lab guy's sinister intentions, Seina knew he was up to something terrible even though she could not read his mind. The lab guy then offered Seina a way out to execute his plan against Rikka. Seina cannot betray Rikka, so she asks Rikka to sing again, just like she did at their karaoke party. As Rikka's singing voice filled the room, the lab guy fell into a deep slumber. Meanwhile, Rikka and Seina make their grand escape using Rikka's parachute skill. Then, they find themselves sitting in a park. Rikka keeps on covering up her true identity as an alien, but she constantly fails. Nonetheless, Seina makes her feel comfortable, and they talk about going to space someday. The next morning, Rikka decided to restore everyone's memories, and they all agreed to celebrate with a trip to get parfait. However, a simple card game quickly escalated into a high-stakes battle for the sake of one melon bread from their teacher. Their faces contorted into expressions of pure melon bread madness as they competed. Seina was driven by her desire for a good meal, as she had been dedicating all her time to Chiyo and hadn't had a proper meal. Tsubasa, on the other hand, was determined to win the melon bread for his sister, fearing she might send him to some sort of Squid Games reality show if he failed. The card duel intensified, and Rikka suffered the consequences of their obsession with melon bread. The two acted like main characters in a bizarre anime, but in the end, Tsubasa emerged victorious. Then, he delivered a monologue worthy of a main character in an underrated series. Just when they thought it was all over, Rikka pulled out another packet of melon bread from her toy, leaving everyone in disbelief. She gave it to Seina, but when she took a bite, she realized it was ice cold and ended up with a case of frosty teeth. In a quick flashback to the ninja village, Hanzo received a stern lecture from their clan head, who insisted that he must discover Chiyo's weakness. Hanzo knows that Chiyo is truly unbeatable, but he vows to find out Chiyo's weakness and defeat her. Back at school, Tsubasa was quite the charmer with the boys. Seina, witnessing Tsubasa's over-the-top flirting skills, couldn't help but feel jealous of his charm. The boys offer to feed their strawberries to Tsubasa, but little do they know that it is against his will. It is then revealed that he is only doing it for the sake of his friends because they seem to feel awkward with boys around. Apparently, this strange encounter all started when little Rikka brought in some random boys to share their parfait. The situation forces Tsubasa to handle 3 boys at once. However, as the boys were preoccupied with flirting, little Rikka was extracting chromosomes from their heads using her tentacles. Seina was concerned that everyone might see Rikka doing this, but she overheard Rikka's thoughts, learning that she wanted to accomplish her mission for Seina's birthday. This puzzled Seina, but she recalled their earlier conversation about her preference for having a daughter. Then, Seina realized that, for Rikka, a birthday signified the birth of another child. That said, Rikka instructed the boys to sit next to the girls they liked, but it seemed there wasn't a single boy deemed worthy of Seina's attention. Seina brutally dismissed them, declaring she didn't want to have children with anyone like them. Seina's strong statements weirded out the boys, causing them to leave. Tsubasa, who was just trying to protect the other girls, faces Seina's wrath and is accused of being too needy for boys' attention. Feeling unjustly blamed, Tsubasa left in anger. After what happened, Rikka couldn't share her date invitation since Seina was not in a good mood. That said, she decided to meet up with one of the 3 boys. Seina secretly observed them from the bushes as they sat on a bench. Rikka expresses her delight to have the boy as her partner on Earth. However, a ninja shuriken suddenly struck the boy's hand, and Chiyo appeared. Chiyo knocks Rikka unconscious, and the boy has vanished, leaving only a log in his place. In a full ninja suit, the real Hanzo emerged, revealing that he intended to use Rikka as a hostage, knowing it would be Chiyo's weakness. Chiyo lashes out her anger at Hanzo for planning something evil for her friends. Hanzo immediately retreated, but he vowed to be successful next time. Rikka woke up and was saddened that she had lost her future husband. On the other hand, Chiyo expresses her guilt for getting them into trouble, but Rikka makes her feel that everything will be fine. Unbeknownst to them, Seina was stalking them during all that time. The next day in class, Chiyo and Rikka noticed Tsubasa entering but behaving like nothing had happened. They ask about Tsubasa's recent dispute with Seina, and Tsubasa reassures them that everything is fine. However, something didn't seem quite right with Tsubasa. Nevertheless, Seina arrived, sporting a shorter haircut, and they reconciled. Tsubasa started taking pictures of them together, but something seemed off about Tsubasa that they could not figure out. It is then revealed that Tsubasa had switched places with her sister. Tsubasa finally attends his real school, where he greets everyone. However, his presence was met with shock and bewilderment because all the time they had been classmates, they hadn't heard him talk at all. That said, he spent lunch break sitting alone on the roof. However, a student named Hanzo from his class approaches him, revealing that he is a new student in their school. He contemplated getting close to the brother of Chiyo's friend to gather information. Unfortunately, Hanzo is unaware that he is talking to the actual friend of Chiyo. They discuss their respective sisters, and they figured out their similarities. Hanzo's sister used to prepare meals for him during their training. Hanzo spoke highly of her back then, but he lamented over the fact that she was no longer the same person he used to know. Tsubasa also admired her sister and aspired to live like her someday. Days later, at the shopping mall, while Tsubasa waits for her friends, Hanzo approaches and offers him a coffee. They sat and chatted about Hanzo's sisters once again. When Tsubasa was about to drink the coffee, Rikka arrived and drank all of it. Meanwhile, Chiyo, seeing Hanzo, acts as if she's possessed by a witch. As everyone departed, Chiyo stayed behind and challenged Hanzo to finish their fight all at once, but Hanzo revealed that he had poisoned Tsubasa's drink, which Rikka consumed. To Hanzo's surprise, Rikka appears before him completely unharmed. It turns out that due to her alien attributes, she managed to escape her impending doom. Hanzo had had enough, and he left completely hopeless in accomplishing his mission. The following day at Kashihara Girls' Academy, Chiyo was in the middle of a hairdressing session, working on Tsubasa's hair. Sekai believes that Tsubasa's tomboyish charm makes him attractive to the other girls, but Chiyo sees her as a cute girl. However, Rikka, overhearing their conversation, had a rather peculiar idea in mind. She wanted to keep Tsubasa as a girl and turn everyone else into boys. Rikka's grand plan was to turn Tsubasa into the princess of a harem filled with hot boys. It was exactly what Rikka envisioned. Rikka then activated her power, Katsu, and just like that, everyone was transformed into boys. As expected, Sekai is the only human who remembers everything, so she quickly adapts to the new reality when she finds out that she has turned into a boy. Suddenly, a handsome fellow arrived and asked a question. Sekai inquired about his identity, and he introduced himself as Chiyomaru, the male counterpart of Chiyo. Sekai rushed off to confront Rikka, but she mistakenly opened a door and saw Tsubasa's bandage plot. Tsubasa informed Sekai that she was temporarily taking her brothers. Sekai then took to sneak a peek at her own no longer existent plot. Realizing that she has become a boy, she approaches Tsubasa, and she asks her for some plot development, giving her a severe head injury on the head. In the nurse's office, Tsubasa attended to Sekai's wound and realized that he was actually quite handsome. She reminded Sekai that they couldn't afford to be late for the barathan. Tsubasa explained that barathan was the day of the male plot armor race. It is an event where participants run around wearing nothing but their plot armor. Chiyo and Rikka also showed up, but Rikka was still her usual young self. However, Chiyomaru has plans to get rid of the girly appearance of Rikka and decides to turn her into a man. That said, Chiyomaru tries shaving her head to complete the transformation. Chiyomaru's manliness was on full display as he punched a wall in a classic manly behavior. Sekai realized that Chiyo's male counterpart was excessively masculine as a boy. But surprisingly, Tsubasa appeared to be even cuter than before. Sekai asked Tsubasa about the barathan, but Tsubasa revealed that he wouldn't be participating for various reasons. Apparently, they need a guardian to sign their entry, but the word guardian made Sekai feel devastated. Meanwhile, the male hair trimmer got dangerously close to Rikka's hair, but as it touched a single strand, the school bell rang. Chiyomaru declared that they would continue the haircutting session after the barathan. Not long after, Chiyomaru and Sekai were running with a single piece of white plot armor to cover their modesty. On the other hand, Rikka was flying around in her spaceship, and nobody seemed to realize that it was not normal at all. Rikka won the race, while Tsubasa, Sekai, and Chiyomaru arrived at the finish line when the twilight arrived. Chiyomaru then took out his razor, ready to continue where they left off. Unable to handle things anymore, Rikka uses her power to transform everyone back into their original form. Tsubasa then informed Rikka and Sekai about their upcoming tea party, and both of them were delighted to live normally again. The next day, Sekai exited the women's restroom and encountered a handsome guy outside. She asked who he was, and he responded with overflowing charm, inviting her to meet him behind the gym when night arrived. Sekai was initially hesitant to go alone, but the guy's good looks and charisma won her over. He even pulled off a classic back against the wall move before departing, leaving Sekai in shock. She pondered whether he might be a teacher or something, but she couldn't seem to recognize him at all. In the classroom, Rikka was concerned about her pet, which had run away. She reminisced about their journey to Earth and their cute adventures together. But her pet, named Fuku, had disappeared. Fuku had the ability to transform into whatever someone desired using its spores, giving people their heart's desires. Sekai absent-mindedly rubbed her hair and found a spore in her hand, realizing that the guy she had met earlier was just an illusion. Tsubasa also asked Sekai for a favor related to a cute person he met at the convenience store. Sekai realized that Tsubasa might also have a spore on her back, so she tried to get a closer look. However, she failed in her attempt because Tsubasa was constantly moving. It turned out there was a whole village of spores on Tsubasa's head, and his delusion was on a whole new level. Sekai attempted to explain to Tsubasa that what she was seeing was an illusion, and that pursuing a romance with this person might lead to his heartbreak. However, Rikka chimed in, enthusiastically endorsing the idea of romance. Sekai began to consider that letting Tsubasa experience heartbreak might be a valuable lesson for him. Rikka, on the other hand, was overjoyed that her Fuku pet was making girls fall in love with their deepest desires. However, there was a dark twist because Fuku planned to devour them after they fell head over heels for it. Sekai was deeply concerned that it was a bizarre and unsettling revelation. Tsubasa then dropped another bomb, revealing that she, too, had been invited for a night stay by a stranger. Chiyo is also against the idea of Tsubasa sleeping with a stranger, so tells Tsubasa not to do it. In a final attempt to help Tsubasa, Sekai tells him that the stranger will eat him that night. However, Tsubasa blushed, clearly thinking about a different kind of eating. Sekai knew that she must step in and take care of Fuku herself, so when the night unfolded, Chiyo and Sekai covertly shadowed Tsubasa's date and unexpectedly encountered each other at the rendezvous point. Chiyo emerged and met the same boy Sekai had spoken to earlier. However, Sekai plucked another spore from her head, causing the boy to vanish. Chiyo, on the other hand, discovered that she also had a spore in her hair, creating an illusion of a delinquent man. Chiyo believed that this boy had come for Tsubasa and warned him to stay away while trying to control her emotions. Sekai then figured out that Fuku only showed illusions to those with the best procreation potential. However, just as the boy was about to make a move on Chiyo, Rikka arrived in the nick of time and put a stop to it, making Chiyo's ideal man disappear. Tsubasa arrived at the scene and found all three in the meeting place. Suddenly, Rikka used a gun-like device to spray everyone, eliminating all the spores. A few days after, at some super sale mushroom festival, Sekai, who was out shopping, saw the hot guy in his mind to resemble the model of the mushroom products. However, it is proven that it is just a lingering effect of the mushroom spores. Sekai, the Class D psychic, possessed extraordinary powers, but she knew that using them for personal gain would land her back in the clutches of the laboratory, just like the last time. One day, Sekai's psychic abilities had won her some free tickets to an amusement park from a restaurant. She decided to share the tickets, being the class rep, and the tickets ended up with Rikka. Rikka had a tough childhood, undergoing rigorous training as a space colonel from a young age, leaving her little time for simple joys. However, she was determined not to betray the spirit of the revolution within her, so she was unsure about how to approach these amusement park tickets. Rikka often shows enthusiasm, but deep down, she is conflicted. After a while, Rikka was aboard her spaceship, contemplating what to wear to the amusement park. Thoughts of military uniforms and school dresses crossed her mind, but she ultimately settled on dressing up in a Red Among Us costume. She excitedly sent a picture of her outfit to the group chat, and Tsubasa, upon seeing it, was at a loss for words. He thought that surely Chiyo would give an honest opinion, but Chiyo, being Chiyo, adores Rikka's outfit to the highest degree. As Sunday rolled around, Tsubasa found herself walking by the roadside, thinking that Chiyo and Rikka were probably having a blast at the amusement park. Suddenly, he stumbled upon Chiyo, who was suspiciously covered in blood. He asked why she was in that place, and she instructed him to inform Rikka that she could not make it, then vanished. Tsubasa suspects that Chiyo has just an urgent errand to do, so he tries to call Rikka but gets no answer. He was bewildered that Chiyo hadn't even recognized him as a boy, even though he was dressed as one. That said, Rikka and Tsubasa were at the amusement park. Some of Tsubasa's friends were also in the area, and they greeted him. Tsubasa then revealed to Rikka that he was Tsubasa's twin brother and explained that Chiyo couldn't make it due to some personal reasons. That said, he informs Rikka that Tsubasa sent him to accompany her to the amusement park. Rikka expressed her gratitude, although she initially considered leaving since none of her friends were around. Tsubasa, on the other hand, insisted that they stay and enjoy together. That said, they started deciding which rides to go on. As they tried out several rides in the amusement park, they pretended to enjoy them. But deep down, they both knew they were doing it for formality. After a while, they went on a roller coaster, played shooting games, tried other thrilling rides, and they genuinely started having fun. Later, they found themselves at the ghost cabin. Rikka pretended to be scared to make sure Tsubasa would not feel bad. However, Tsubasa knew she was just pretending because she had never been afraid of anything in their school. Inside the ghost house, Tsubasa tries to maintain the excitement for Rikka. However, when they entered a room in the ghost house, they encountered the fallen samurai theme. When the ghost samurai started approaching them, Tsubasa grabbed Rikka, and they both fled the scene. Outside, Rikka was thrilled that she had seen this Palpiapapapiapiapiapiapiapian, but then she worried that she may have shown too much excitement in front of her friend's brother. When the night fell, there was a fireworks display and a lighting parade. Seeing this, Rikka was genuinely happy and thanked Tsubasa for coming with her. Seeing Rikka's genuine emotions in the event, Tsubasa started to feel the butterflies in his stomach. The next day in class, Chiyo was in tears because of missing the moment. Rikka assured her that it was fine, as Tsubasa's brother had accompanied her. That said, Sekai asks about Tsubasa's brother, to which Rikka answers by praising him and stating that he is smart and kind. The discussion then shifted to their upcoming vacation for the coming week, and Tsubasa suggested going to his grandpa's vacation home. The following day, they excitedly talked about the vacation and couldn't wait to go. However, Tsubasa dropped a bomb, revealing that his grandpa had sold the property. Everyone was prepared for the vacation, but they told him that it was totally fine. Sekai, the savior of the day, suggested that they go for a retreat instead, lifting their spirits. Tsubasa was relieved that he wouldn't have to face the disappointment of a cancelled vacation. Their most awaited day has arrived, and they are with their English teacher acting as their supervisor, as they need an adult guardian. The English teacher's wife was also with them, but she was busy doing her own business. They arrived at the retreat area, and they all headed to the reception to check in for Sekai's reservation. The receptionist, pointing at Tsubasa, bluntly stated that Tsubasa was a boy. This revelation shocked everyone, but Tsubasa was flattered that he still looked manly. Sekai was furious at their service, but they were still not allowed to claim their reservation. That said, Sekai whispered to Tsubasa, asking if he was wearing any underwear to prove his point to the receptionist. Suddenly, the distressed Tsubasa admits that he is actually Tsuyoshi, so in the end, they are left standing outside the hotel because they get denied. Tsubasa quickly tells a story about his sister being unable to make it due to a contest. The girls were unfazed, and they just wanted to enjoy their day, so they all took in the beautiful view of the sea. When Tsubasa attempted to leave, Rikka stopped him, insisting that he should stay. Later, they headed to a nearby shop, and Tsubasa realized the girls didn't seem to care whether he was a boy or a girl. They were just okay with it. However, beneath the surface, they were all battling with their own feelings. Chiyo, in particular, was controlling her urges not to end Tsubasa's life for being too close to her. Tsubasa talked about his sister, and Chiyo didn't appreciate it, telling him that his sister was a kind girl. They talked about his girly and cute side, and it hit Tsubasa hard. On their way home, they discussed what souvenirs Tsubasa might like, and it was all happening right in front of him. When the night arrived, Rikka sat in her spaceship, immersed in some space games. Suddenly, she received a signal indicating the presence of another spaceship nearby. She attempted to establish communication but received no response. Realizing the gravity of the situation, she decided to power down all her devices, including the brainwashing device, to boost communications. It was a risky move, but it was her best shot. The next morning, during the class exam discussion, a tired Chiyo arrived, clutching a shirt she had stayed up all night working on. Sekai, upon seeing Chiyo's fatigue, initially assumed she had been studying hard. However, Chiyo clarified that she had been sewing a shirt all night. Tsubasa and Sekai scolded her, urging her to focus on her studies to avoid failing the exams. However, Rikka suggested they do a group study session instead. So, the gang assembled for their group study session, ready to tackle their academic challenges head-on. At Sekai's house, Tsubasa took on the role of teaching Chiyo basic math, starting with multiplication tables. Chiyo struggled to remember even the simplest tables, but Tsubasa was determined to help her catch up in the limited time they had, and Rikka served as the enthusiastic cheerleader. However, Tsubasa knew time was of the essence, as he was on the cusp of puberty, and his voice would soon deepen significantly. Amid Chiyo's efforts to memorize the multiplication tables, Rikka thinks of a way she could increase Chiyo's IQ. Using one of her gadgets, Rikka initiated a process that appeared to boost Chiyo's intellect dramatically. Chiyo's head literally popped and snapped back into place, and she suddenly became the female Einstein. She had not only recalled the entire book but answered questions fluently, offering detailed explanations. Sekai realized what Rikka had done to enhance Chiyo's cognitive abilities and felt relieved. Following the study session, Sekai proposed they watch a movie and have a sleepover. Tsubasa initially declined but was overruled by the others, who ignored his protests. Tsubasa headed out with Chiyo to buy snacks, and at the convenience store, he talked to himself. Chiyo overheard his raspy voice and suggested that Tsubasa could create a remedy to address his voice change. As they walked back to Sekai's house, they stopped, both wanting to share something but hesitating. Meanwhile, Hanzo lurked nearby. Rikka and Sekai soon joined them. Sekai, observing the communication flow, became increasingly concerned. Chiyo, in a vulnerable moment, turned to Rikka and questioned when Rikka planned to leave Earth. She suddenly knows that Rikka is an alien, given all the strange things she has witnessed. Chiyo then turned to Sekai, telling her that she knew the truth all along but decided to pretend she knew nothing at all. An awkward and heavy silence filled the air. Sekai attempted to defend herself, but then a beam of light struck Chiyo, and she reverted to her normal self. The gang walked in silence until they reached Sekai's house. Rikka felt that it was about time to reveal her secret, so she suggested watching anime otaku videos on YouTube. However, Sekai doesn't have a smart TV for it, so they subscribed to it with their phones and watched it all together. When night fell, Tsubasa sat outside, pondering how to disclose the truth about himself. He also reflected on what Chiyo had said during their walk from the store. Chiyo joined him outside, and Tsubasa asked her about her memory. Chiyo mentioned having difficulty recalling details and attributed it to a heavy mental burden. She was glad she remembered the multiplication tables Tsubasa had taught her, but when she recited them, she made mistakes. Tsubasa panicked and urged Seina to wake up, as they needed to help Chiyo again. The next morning, Chiyo was content, but Seina and Tsubasa were exhausted from their all-night study session. It turns out that Chiyo plans to use her ninja skills to cheat and be able to pass the exams no matter what. Seina, however, was deeply concerned about Chiyo's misguided confidence. To everyone's surprise, Chiyo managed to pass her exam. However, the results of her exams led to a series of retests that became a recurring nightmare for teachers. The three wonder why Rikka's name was missing from the list. Frustrated, they approached Rikka to ask about it. Rikka suggested they hold her graduation ceremony right there and then. Tsubasa, urging caution, believed it could be a mistake in the list and suggested they visit the teacher. Seina intervened, insisting that Rikka should speak her mind today. Rikka emotionally reminisced about her time with the group, expressing deep gratitude for their friendship. She raised her arm, and her spaceship began to ascend, taking her toward it. Then, she delivered a heartfelt speech, acknowledging that she planned to erase their memories, but would forever cherish the memories she had made with them. Seina offers a comforting talk to Chiyo, emphasizing that Rikka has always cherished her comrades as soon as she arrived on Earth. Tsubasa couldn't hold back his tears either, but Seina suggested they respect Rikka's decision. Tsubasa then tearfully revealed the truth, explaining that he was not Tsubasa but was, in fact, a boy named Tsuyoshi. Even lurking, Hanzo was taken aback by this revelation. Tsubasa opened up about why he had lied all along and how sorry he was for deceiving them. Seina was bewildered by the mysterious secrets of Tsubasa, but Seina told them to focus on Rikka's departure. Suddenly, the emotional Hanzo declared his intention for a truce. In a surprising turn of events, Hanzo generated a tornado with his sprints and used it to reach Chiyo's spaceship. Then, with a little assistance from Seina's Mistress Time ability, they successfully make it. Inside, Rikka prepared her UFO to send a signal and depart, but she suddenly received a warning signal. On top of the ship, Chiyo, using her ninja skills, opens a path to enter Rikka's spaceship. Witnessing this, Rikka opened the doors of her spacecraft. The sight inside left everyone in complete silence, and they all spoke to Rikka, expressing their love and gratitude, not wanting her to leave. Rikka, overwhelmed by her emotions, reverted to her classic self and hugged them as tears streamed down her face. However, the spaceship had already activated its departure, so to stop it, Rikka used the self-destruction mode. Then, after a sudden beep, a colorful explosion occurred, and the spaceship plummeted back to Earth. Tsubasa was in tears, and everyone was anxious about what would happen next. All of a sudden, Rikka apologizes to everyone and she activates her powers, and a burst of vibrant light surrounds them. When the light faded, they found themselves back in time on the morning of the classroom discussion. And since all of them have been directly affected by Rikka's power, none of them remembers what really happened. And so their friendship continues despite the little lies they tell each other.